used to work over at the Fed. So you're the perfect person to sort of outline whether in this environment where eventually we might get one, maybe even two cuts this year in terms of overall policy, you should be putting yet more money into a Broadcom, into an NVIDIA, into some other AI plays?
Yeah, look, like taking a step back, I think that we're in this huge AI build out, and there's a couple ways you can play this market. You could participate in a semis ETF. You could pick the winners. But I think what I'm thinking in my head is, I think there's some naysayers who are saying, well, this AI build out we're going to see the peak of the curve in the next couple of years. I personally think that this hyper growth phase in the semis will probably go on for years, just because I think what the street is not saying is that there's going to be a lot of incremental demand from some of the tech laggers that will need to catch up on AI. There's going to be foreign buyers from, let's say, Europe and emerging markets. And lastly, I think what we're also thinking is there's going to be a lot of training and retraining of AI. AI is like software. Every time, on your iPhone, you got to update your software every single week. So in AI, as there are new data becoming available, you have to update the AI, you have to retrain. So I personally think that the the infra trade has a lot of room to go.
Well, Zhao, I'm sticking with your experience on the Federal Reserve because, look, at the end of the day, rates are pretty much everything when we're talking about this stuff. I'm wondering how you're thinking about these high-flying tech companies and what exactly is priced in with regard to rate cuts. Are we going to see still moves higher even after the Fed does cut rates, if it does cut rates this year, or is that already priced in?
Look, as a former staffer and now founder of our firm, I take the view that it's important to look at the long-term directions of interest rates. In economics, there's a saying like, we're 90% confident, we're 95% confident, we're probably 90% confident that there's going to be at least one rate cut sometime in the next 9 months. So whether it starts in July, September, December, or January, I think is not as important to me as an investor because the directions of the rates are coming down. So what that means is what you can do is to put, I think there's one more thing that I think the street often gets wrong out, and I'll say this like for the record, is I think the street puts a lot of emphasis on the dot plot chart. And I think what I would do is probably put 60% of your weight on the dot plot chart and put 40% of your own research analysis into the thinking. So you come up with your own framework to what you think is going to be the path of interest rates. And then you put that into your financial model, your DCF model on Excel. And then you can sort of figure out what you think is fair value on the S&P, on NASDAQ, and on the stocks. So for me, I just take a step back. I'm less worried about whether the cut starts in September or December, but I think there's a cut coming, so that I'll just put that into my model, and then that'll be able to help me make better decisions as an investor.
You're betting on the trend, and you're betting actually on private companies. I'm thinking of Anthropic you put money into, some of the large language models. Dissect for us where the money then now is allocated in this space. Is it the large language models? At what point do we start seeing more money allocated to the applications, the use of these large language models?
Yeah, so there's sort of 6 broader themes of this AI value chain in my head. If you start from the very bottom, right, you have electricity, you have data centers, you have cooling centers, and then on top of that, you'll have chips, so it's the semis, and you have the data owners like the Max 7, and then on the top you have the large language models, and then you need human talent, you need smart people to train the AI and work on it, and then lastly you need we're going to build the applications. I think as an investor, you can obviously play this AI trade in public markets by buying public stocks, the QQQ. But in private markets, what we're doing is we're sort of an ETF in the private markets in that we're invested in Anthropic, Lambda, Cohere, because these are the innovations companies happening in the private markets. But there's also other ways to play this AI trade, because you could also be investing in utilities. You could be buying data centers. So I think there's different ways, but I think the fundamental thesis in my head is that it's a foregone conclusion whether AI is real. In fact, I think AI is going to be like software squared, the internet cubed, if you will, excuse me. But I think the biggest question in my head is actually AI regulation. But that aside, I think when you take a step back and you look at some of the companies in this AI trade, we're at the very beginning where, you can think of it like a 2-year-old baby. And so the saying is, in plain words, if this baby at 2-year-old can do what it can do, imagine when that baby matures as an adult, how much more that person can do.
Okay, well, as a venture capitalist, you're thinking about that baby as an adult. So very briefly, paint a picture for us about what AI can do when it's 19 years old.
Yeah, then we're talking about the sixth layer, which is the application layer, right? So there's, I guess the industry phrase here is called vertical software, which is you can apply AI in cybersecurity, in automation, in robotics. There's a company called Figure AI that's combining robotics with AI. We're invested in an AI cybersecurity company called Deep Instinct. But you can also apply AI to pharma research, to many other fields that we haven't even thought about. There's one thing I gotta say that's really, really important. When we think back at the major technological innovations of the last 200 years, whether it was electricity, the engine, the internet, how did we as a humanity create that? We did it with human intelligence, people working together. Yeah. But what happens now when you can recreate intelligence, you can recreate many, many Thomas Edisons. So there's many infinite possibilities that we can create. So what I'm trying to say is it's really, I think, about how we nurture this technology in a way that's going to help us, helps humanity move forward and grow in a way that's responsible.